It's a species of cannabis that's separate from cannabis sativa, and it's suspected it spun off the cannabis indica on the evolutionary wheel as it climbed north past the Himalayas and into Central Asia and Russia. And that's not a very hospitable area, so the plant adapted. It got smaller, shrubbier, and tougher, only growing a foot or two, and it flowers a lot quicker because of the shorter growing season. They say it was used in Russian and Mongolian folk medicine to help with depression, but that's not because of THC, which it doesn't produce very much of at all. And here to help us figure out what's going on with cannabis we forgot is Ben Goldman of Goldman Glass. Ben, thank you so much. I'm excited.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, hey, it's going to be great. So help us out figure out what's going on with Cannabis Ruderalis. What makes it different from all the other cannabis strains, sativa, indica, all that?
Yeah, I think as it's understood, it has less THC, and it also is what's called an autoflower plant.
What's that?
Meaning, well, normally when you have cannabis growing, it's split into vegetative and flowering growth.
Okay.
And usually it's based on the light. So when the seasons change, the light changes, and the plant goes from vegetating to flowering growth.
So like longer days, shorter nights kind of thing.
Exactly. And with autoflower, it automatically, as the name would suggest, flowers. So it goes from vegetating to flowering in a matter of time, as opposed to with a certain amount of light.
Oh, so it pays no attention to the light at all. It has its own schedule.
You've got a certain amount of time, and it's going to flower.
Oh, damn. So how are we using that? Like, are we using that currently in like kind of growing?
Yeah. Well, as I understand, it's good for plants. It adds what's called hybrid vigor. It makes the plants hardier, stronger, better plants. Hybrid vigor would be the opposite of inbreeding, which would not make a plant healthier. It would make it weaker. And
so it's going to make the plant genetically stronger, but is it bringing any specific genetic traits into the picture?
Well, the autoflower.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that in the future, when higher CBD strains are more interested, people are more interested in CBD strains, that will become a more interesting thing for breeders to put a higher proportion of it into their strains.
So the Cannabis Ruderalis strain is actually high in CBD?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not producing THC, but it is producing CBD.
I assume it's producing some THC,
Oh, some
but
THC,
not as much.
Right.
Whichever one of our ancestors was tending to those plants, that's what they preferred.
Actually, speaking of like ancestral relationships, so what is kind of the history of Cannabis Ruderalis? I mean, it must have been around for a while.
Yeah, one interesting thing, there's a mummy that was found in Siberia called the Siberian Ice Woman. She's about a 2,500-year-old mummy, and she was found with a small bag of cannabis, and that was Cannabis Ruderalis coming from Siberia. So we actually have a picture of what one of our ancestors would have looked like who was tending to these co-evolutionary plants.
Oh my God, that's wild.
Our camp followers, as they were called.
Our camp followers.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, carrying the cannabis with them as they migrated.
Yeah.
That's
the plant strategy kind of got intertwined with our strategy at life back then.
Oh man.
Just like our foods and
and everything else.
And everything else.
And everything else past that. So why don't we see so much of it today? Why can't I go and buy Cannabis Ruderalis flower in the store?
Yeah, well, I think the term that modern smokers would use, it's larvae. It's not a very substantial plant. It's not going to hold very big buds, and it's not going to look like the cannabis that you would probably pick out at a dispensary.
Okay, so it's kind of weak, airy looking, kind of not a
exactly
big flower and bud.
Yeah, but I think that this is going to be an important thing in the future. So it'll be interesting to watch as cultivars start to incorporate more Cannabis Ruderalis in their genetics.
Right, because you were saying, so you touched on it a little bit, people are hunting for THC right now. We're in the period where THC, bigger is better.
Yeah.
But Cannabis Ruderalis, so it's going to bring the genetics in where it's going to kind of reduce the size of the plant and increase the CBD, right?
Yeah, I think you could probably assume that, right?
So that's what I would imagine.
Yeah.
So it sounds like this would be a good kind of combination for like an indica strain or something like that.
I guess we'll see.
We will see.
Yeah, it'll be fun to look forward to the future of what this beautiful plant, turns into.
Amen. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Ben, where can we find you? How do we find you?
On Instagram at Goldman Glass. That'd probably be the best place.
All right, definitely check him out. He's got lots of good
Thank you,
stuff
guys.
going on. Hey, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it, man.